Hello and welcome to All About Boston. I'm Seth McCoy. We are less than 1 week away from Election Day in the city of Boston. 4 district city councilors face challenges. District 3's Frank Baker is facing off against Donnie Palmer. District 4 is seeing a strongly contested race between incumbent Charles Yancey and challenger Andrea Campbell. District 5 incumbent Tim McCarthy is facing Jean-Claude Sanon, and District 7 has a choice between incumbent Tito Jackson and former mayoral candidate Charles Clemens. The focus tonight, however, is on the at-large race. 5 candidates are running for 4 slots. The 4 incumbents, Councilors Flaherty, Murphy, Pressley, and Wu, and challenger Annissa Essaibi George. The candidates have all been invited here tonight to sit with me one-on-one and pitch their candidacy to you, the voter. I hope you find the program informative and that you go out and vote on Tuesday, November 3rd. And joining me now is City Council at-large candidate Annissa Essaibi George. So it's like 4 days until Election
But
Day.
who's counting?
Who's counting? This is the second time you've run.
It is.
So you came in 5th last time around.
I did.
Obviously, you're hoping to do better this time.
Just need to move up 1 seat.
That's right. So why did you choose to run again? Because a lot of times, and there was a big field last time out, and you're the only one who decided to step up to the plate and run again. So why is that?
Maybe I was the least tired out of the bunch. No, in 2013 we did really well in finishing 5th. I considered a huge success. Obviously, I got into the race then to win, which I'm in the race this year to win as well. And just hoping to go up 1 seat. I think last time around, yeah, that was an exhausting race. It was an exciting year.
Right.
Everyone seemed to jump right into that race, whether they were running at large or for district or for mayor. So this year is definitely a lot quieter.
Yeah, are you concerned about that with how the voter turnout will be? I mean, obviously the voter turnout, I've talked about it on the show many times, is so low. So is that a concern of yours? I know you have great campaign staff who are probably, working your base, but also spreading out.
Right.
But what's your, I don't obviously want you to give away your game plan going into Election Day.
That's fine. No, it's concerning as a candidate because I want a lot of people out to vote, and I hope that they vote for me. The other challenge, though, just as a civically engaged person, as a hopeful elected official, voter engagement's incredibly important. And when we have a low turnout, it's depressing, and we've got to work towards getting more engagement out of our residents in the city of Boston and getting them to the polls. It will be lower than the mayor's race for sure, and we've adjusted our campaign strategy considering that. But it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, especially going into these last 4 days. We want to get our ones out, we'll get our supporters out. And I think that the work of a city councilor partially is to engage residents so that they do come out and vote regularly.
You also have a lot of great support, though, behind you. I mean, you just had a couple of huge endorsements. You want to talk a little bit about those?
Well, I'm very excited about the Attorney General Maura Healey's endorsement. That came out, I think, a week ago or so, and she had a great event this week in Charlestown. Really helped introduce me to some people that I didn't know, and that's what those endorsements serve.
Right.
Is one, they're become your surrogate and speak for you and encourage their supporters to support you. But it also helps lift my profile in many cases when the Attorney General comes out in support of a city council candidate. I'm excited to have it. I'm thrilled to have it. She's become a great friend over the last few years, and I believe in having, going for endorsements for people that I am thrilled about their political future, and I'm thrilled about hers.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about why you're running. Like, what are some of the things that you want to do if you're elected?
Sure. For sure, we'll talk a lot about education. As you know, I'm a high school teacher. I've been in East Boston High for 13 years. And a lot of what I end up talking about has to do with high schools because that's what I know and I know best. And as a high school teacher in particular, I'd like to really have an imprint on what's happening in our high schools across the board. And we know the success of our exam schools, but bringing it back to some of our district schools and our smaller high schools and how we can really focus on improving what they're doing, supporting what's going well, and really helping to repair and fix what isn't going well and support our schools in that way.
How do you feel about the new superintendent?
Oh, it's been an interesting change for sure, and with change comes anxiety, especially from sort of the soldiers and the teaching staff. But with change also comes opportunity, and I'm excited about what he brings to the table. Dr. Chang's experiences. He's got a new crew in there. We have an ombudsman, which has been great. Yeah. And no, it's an exciting time in BPS, and I think it's a great opportunity to highlight again what's working and fix what's broken.
Right. You've also talked a little bit about the BRA and development in the city. Yep. So talk a little bit about what you as a city councilor would do in terms of the BRA and how development happens.
Sure. One of the things that's come up the most one of the most hot topics on the campaign trail has been housing. And we're in desperate need of all sorts of housing in the city of Boston.
Except for luxury housing.
With that one exception, exception. And working with our neighbors and our communities to find the right balance for each neighborhood between home ownership opportunities, rental opportunities, affordable rental opportunities, truly affordable rental and home ownership opportunities, because we know that formula doesn't work for Bostonians. And we need to make sure that as a city council, we take a very active role in what's happening both with the BRA and in other projects. Yep. And we've got to make sure that we're providing for our seniors. And that's something that we sometimes forget when we talk about the glory of booming Boston, as we've got seniors. Mm-hmm. And on the other end, we've got a lot of homeless families that I take a particular interest in, especially with my work in the schools.
Absolutely. We also have a lot of people that we're trying to keep in the city. The people around our age and younger who we want to set up roots here, and we want to have them live here, but it is becoming really ridiculous and unaffordable for a lot of people. Right.
Well, it's unaffordable, and then some of the housing that's being created isn't conducive to long-term staying. So one bedroom's going for $2,500 a month is not. It's not great for the working people of Boston. We need to work on that.
Right, and that's how we end up with situations where you have 3 people renting a one-bedroom apartment. Yep. I know we want to talk obviously more about why you're running, but just from the ISD perspective of housing, and a few years ago they instituted the no more than 4 unrelated living together, but it's unenforceable. Right. So as a city councilor, how would you maybe you would step into that role and look at all the different things that are on the books, which obviously would be quite time intensive. Yeah. But what are some of the things that you would want to target for further review? Right.
Well, for the no more than 4, for example, we've talked a lot about no more than 4 in communities like Allston and Brighton because they have a large college population. But we're seeing increased college populations and young populations in East Boston, that they're starting to boom, and in Dorchester, especially close to the Red Line, they're starting to boom. Fort Hill, especially their proximity to a lot of our colleges and teaching hospitals. Yeah. And that's something that we need to be concerned about and certainly take a very vocal and active role in, work with ISD to make sure that our population is protected, because safety is the #1 concern, but then also where we can play a role in mitigating the effects of increased rents and increased home ownership opportunities. And you're really trying to keep the younger people here and stable, but then also encouraging them to stay for the rest of their lives. We want them committed to Boston for good.
Right. Should we bring back rent control?
I don't know about rent control. I think we can, there are some other opportunities. And first and foremost is to create less of a demand on housing.
Definitely.
And create more of it. But I would like to also focus on the homeless issue, and in particular our homeless families. Right. As a Boston public school teacher, we've got 3,000 kids in BPS that are homeless. Right. And many of them are being transported in from outside of the city communities, because we have to promise to educate them, and that's what we should do. Right. But we don't have enough shelters and family shelters in the city of Boston. And we've got to create transitional housing for people that are homeless and families that are homeless. And we've got to create opportunities for them to end up in permanent housing. And permanent housing sort of the quick way, not the long way.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. At the beginning of your time here, we talked about how this is your second time running. What has been most memorable between running now versus running then?
Sure. Well, I've benefited greatly from some name recognition, having a successful run two years ago, not quite as successful as I had hoped, but that's been helpful. I learned a lot of lessons between then and now, and one of them being start much earlier, start knocking the doors much earlier, start the fundraising much earlier, and all of those components, all of those lessons learned from 2013 have really helped, I think, pushed me into this final 4 days.
Was it been harder to run with just 5 of you versus?
It's a different dynamic, for sure. It's been a quieter race because there's only 4 of us and it's an off-year election. When, 2 years ago when there was originally 19 of us, everyone was able to create their own buzz and bring their own base into that election. And then for the final with the 8, the 19 stayed involved to some degree, which was great. This time there's 5 of us, there's 4 incumbents. It's a very sleepy year. No mayor's race, no other sort of crazy hot button issues happening. I think if the Olympics were around, maybe there'd be a little bit more attention.
You just had the pay raise issue, which of course you came out against the pay raise for the city council. They just approved that yesterday.
Yes, they did.
Themselves. So
I'm not supportive of the pay raise, but I am very happy that they took a public vote. We were a week away from, or days away from it just happening.
Right.
So I'm happy with that public vote, and I think that it's important for voters and the general public to know where our city councilors stand on that pay raise.
Definitely. 20 seconds. Tell people why they should come out and vote for you on November 3rd, which is Tuesday.
Sure. I think that I would make a great city councilor because as a Boston Public School teacher, I've got a tremendous amount of experience in the classroom, 13 years as a small business owner and building a successful business in Dorchester. That experience can help me be a great city councilor when we talk about economic development, job stabilization, job growth, and economic stability in all of our neighborhoods. And I hope to have one of your 4 votes this Tuesday, November 3rd.
Great. Thank you so much
Seth,
for being
thank
here.
you.
Good luck.
It's been awesome.
Awesome. So for more information on Annissa, please visit her website. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And joining me now is City Councilor at Large, Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna, welcome back to the program. I feel like it's been years since we've sat down and talked to each other.
It hasn't been, though.
No, I know.
But I've missed you too, if that's your point.
Thank you, thank you. And we are literally days away from election.
Yes.
It's Tuesday, November 3rd. So obviously we wanted to have you on to talk about why you're running for re-election.
Great.
So we'll start off there. Why are you running for re-election?
All right. Well, I've had the honor the last 6 years. So I'm currently in my 3rd term pursuing a 4th. And
time flies, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, I believe I've brought a unique lens and a strength of advocacy to the council for a set of issues that previously were overlooked, not for malice, but simply for lack of perspective. I really believe, especially in government, in the benefit and the power of cognitive diversity. It informs the issues you work on when you have a diversity of perspective, opinion, and thought, and also how you approach those issues. And so on those issues that disproportionately and adversely impact women, that has really been my heart's work. I have policy achievements in all these areas: human trafficking, teen pregnancy, domestic violence, sexual assault, fighting for more women in police and fire and the trades. And then the larger issues I work on, really systemic issues that threaten the health of our families in our entire city. Poverty, violence in all of its forms, and reducing trauma in our communities. And I'm very proud through holistic and intentional policy advancements, the progress we've made, but much work remains to be done. And so, it's been my honor to earn the confidence and the votes and the partnership of the people of Boston the last 6 years, and I'm running in the hopes that I'll do that again.
Absolutely. You have so many moments that you could probably point to as your proudest moments as a city councilor. Can you identify one in particular that really stands out to you?
Okay.
Tough questions tonight.
Yes, it is. I would say my work around liquor license reform. Yes.
Which I should thank you, because now I live on Fort Hill and we're starting to see some of the benefit of that.
Thank you. Well, and again, I've led in these spaces, but I don't do any of this work alone. I've done it in partnership with the people of Boston. And as someone representing the entire city, all 22 neighborhoods, I saw a great disparity across our main streets. Neighborhoods that had a density and a saturation of amenities, specifically neighborhood restaurants, that's my focus, and neighborhoods that were food deserts. standards with no walkable amenities. And I really believe in the power of neighborhood restaurants, the role that they play in transforming community as social and economic anchors. And I want every neighborhood to have an equity and opportunity to build community and to build wealth. So we worked for 4 years with 2 mayors. My home rule petition was the last legislation that Tom Menino signed. Also with Mayor Walsh, with the City Council and our legislature to undo a 100-year-old law that was really choking at the economic development and growth in our neighborhoods because there's a cap on liquor licenses.
Right.
And a black market was created, and no matter how good your food is, your profit margin is going to be made on your bar.
Right.
And just some numbers I want to share with you. 2 out of 5 people, their first job was in a restaurant. 2 out of 4 restaurants are owned by a woman or an immigrant, and 2 out of 4 restaurants are owned by someone that started in the front of the house or the back of the house. So there's real opportunity there for upward mobility and advancement. And then we have quarry reform,
Right.
but we do not have enough quarry-friendly jobs. And
Right.
the culinary arts has really proven a path of least resistance for many who have experienced employment discrimination.
Haley House is a prime example of that.
Prime example. And so now the City of Boston has control of the licensing board. The mayor had full authority to appoint that board, appointed a new one. Through my legislation, we now have 75 new licenses over the next 3 years. 80% of those are restricted to main streets and neighborhoods that have historically been disenfranchised and marginalized. And so now those licenses that were going for $250,000
Right.
are now going from anywhere from $2,700 to $3,000.
Which is amazing.
I think it's a game changer in terms of economic development.
I can tell you, speaking from my personal experience, it is a game changer. I mean, you have Dudley Cafe now at the bowling
Absolutely.
building,
Yes.
and I can go in there and have a glass of wine
Yes.
with my sandwich.
And now Dudley Doe. And again, it's not just about the opportunity for economic development and job growth, all of which is important. You can't keep telling people to support local if there's no local for them to support.
Right.
But I also, this is a city that is incredibly diverse, but very segregated in how we socialize.
Yep.
And oftentimes, the only time that I see the full bandwidth of the diversity of our city is in our restaurants.
Right.
And I also think that we have an opportunity to be an innovative food frontier city, to be a food destination city, and that the diversity of our neighborhoods should be reflected in our culinary offerings.
We need more vegan restaurants, though.
Oh yes, that's your cause.
That's right.
That's your cause.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever had FOMO?
Oh, yes, have you? She's turning the tables right now.
I'm new to that. I've been on a wellness journey, of late, trying to set an example.
You've been there, though, right? To
No,
FOMO?
but I have had FOMO ice cream. I just recently had the lavender.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, the lavender yogurt in a smoothie.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
it was
Over the
very-
summer, they had a blueberry cobbler. We're totally digressing right now.
That's okay.
But they had a blueberry cobbler, and it was so fantastic. So I hope they bring it back next summer, and then I'll have to share a pint with you.
Yeah,
or
you should
something.
ask every candidate what's their
Favorite FOMO.
What's their cheat food? There's a lot of emotional eating that happens in the final days of a campaign. I have to tell you. So.
Yes, I know. What's the difference between campaigning this time versus campaigning the first time you did it?
Wow. Well, now I have a record to run on. I'm not. The thing is, I don't govern complacently. I've been very aspirational, very aggressive would be too heavy of a word to say, but. I don't govern complacently. I don't campaign complacently. I always run like I'm in 5th place. Yeah. Ultimately, this is a conversation between myself and the voters, and it's about earning their confidence and earning their trust, and again, earning their partnership. But I would say the chief difference is that I have a record to run on, and it's one that I'm very proud of.
And one thing that you can point to recently was the council vote on the pay raise, which happened on Wednesday. You voted against it. Talk about why that was.
Well, I have to say, all of my colleagues, they have been elected by the people, and they were sent there for very specific reasons. Voting is a very personal choice. And I respect all of my colleagues. I think it is impossible to quantify what it is that we do and that impact. Every single one of my colleagues, works hard and makes great personal sacrifices. In fact, I was recalling that when I went before the JP Progressives for their endorsement in my first run, I was asked from the audience, do you think that there should be a salary increase for counselors? And I said, what is the pay? I mean, I had never even looked into it.
Right.
And I think that's true, for all of us. We do this out of a calling of service. And so to me, the issue has never been one of merit, and I was not hearing that as I traveled the city. The issue for me was one of process, and I was uncomfortable with an arbitrary decision and number being set that seemed grossly unfair to the taxpayers. And so I said I would not vote in the affirmative for any pay increase, salary increase that was not tied to a permanent mechanism that would take this decision out of the hands of the council and would ensure some taxpayer predictability. So Councilor O'Malley and I offered or attempted to which we introduced, but it unfortunately procedurally our hands were tied and we could not advance it. But for a permanent mechanism where our salary would be tied to Boston median income, whereby when the economy is thriving and our constituents are benefiting, so shall we. And when the economy is on a downturn and our constituents are struggling, then we would struggle right along with them. Unfortunately, we ran out of time procedurally in terms of what was legislatively available to us, and we could not advance that amendment. And for that reason, I voted no, because I said I would not vote in the affirmative for anything that was not tied to a permanent mechanism. So it was, not for me an issue of merit, but really an issue of process.
Right, absolutely. And I think that, there was obviously a lot of discussion out there in the public sphere about the issue. I want you to tell, for me and the viewers at home right now, why they should give you one of their 4 votes on Tuesday.
You, camera?
You can look at the camera.
Okay.
Okay. With the red light.
All right then. My name is Ayanna Pressley. For the last 6 years, I've had the honor of actualizing what I believe are our shared values and vision. I've brought a unique lens and a strength of advocacy to the Boston City Council. I'm the founder and chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities, working on those issues that I believe threaten the health of our families and our communities every day, to break cycles of poverty, violence in all its forms, and to reduce trauma in our communities. And I'm an unapologetic advocate on behalf of women and girls. It's been an honor to serve you in this way for the last 6 years, and I hope to earn your confidence and your vote and your continued partnership on Tuesday, November 3rd. I'm asking for one of your 4 votes.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. It was
Thank
great to see you. And for you at home, if you have the need for more information, please visit Councilor Ayanna Pressley's website. And joining me now is Councilor at Large, Michael Flaherty. Michael, welcome to All About Boston.
It's great to be here, Seth. Good to see you.
It's pretty close to Election Day. We're running out of time as you're probably checking off the days as we're going, ready for a celebration, hopefully. But why are you running again? I mean, obviously, you've been on the council before.
Yep.
You ran for mayor. You were off the council for a little bit, and you ran again.
That's
and
correct.
now you're
Yep.
running for your second term in your new time on the council.
Flaherty round 2. Is that
That's right, 2.0.
Yes. Well, obviously, at the end of the day, I love to help people, and I love public service. And so, being a city kid and raising a family in the city, and having a front row seat to a lot of the decisions that happen in our city at the municipal level, it's an exciting place to be. And so I'm drawn to that, and I missed it, which is why I came back. And furthermore, when I had lost the election for mayor, my phone didn't stop ringing.
Right.
People from all across the city would call you for all sorts of issues and concerns and requests, and so oftentimes I found myself calling my former colleagues,
Yep.
Councilor Murphy, Councilor Ross, Councilor Consalvo. Those were the guys that I would call and say, hey, can you give me a hand here as a person calling me from this neighborhood? Can you help? So it never stopped, and so you couldn't tell people, say, you didn't read the papers, I didn't win that election, or I'm not in there anymore.
Right.
It wasn't my style, but 2, because I had the relationships, and it doesn't just end at the council, it's all those commissioners and all the superintendents and the deputy superintendents who you have great lasting relationships and friendships with, that you could pick up the phone and you could help somebody. So it really, the constituent service piece, despite the fact you're out of office, doesn't stop. In fact, the same thing happened when I was elected to the city council. Folks remember I was the one that had defeated Dapper O'Neill.
Right.
I got Dapper's office and Dapper's phone, and that phone never stopped, and people still kept calling, asking for Dapper well after the election was over, and I would pick up the phone and jump right onto those services. I would also touch base with him and let him know who was calling, and so the same thing applies. When I had got off the council, people would still see you at the street, in the coffee shop, or down at the ball field or the hockey rink with my kids, and ask you to help them, and it's
Well, you
I
become,
guess it's in my DNA, it's instinctual to help
right, and you
people.
become the go-to guy for a lot of people, regardless of whether or not you're elected or
Correct,
not.
right.
So,
So that's why I'm in this one once again, running for re-election, and it's an exciting time for our city. Unprecedented economic development boom. The skyline, as you see, you can see the trucks and the cranes and lots of
some of the cranes
construction
from my
happening.
house.
Yes, and they're encroaching in our neighborhood, so we got to be sensitive to that. But it's also an interesting time because we have a mayor who's just halfway through his first term, and being an experienced member of the city council, knowing the city, knowing its neighborhoods, I add tremendous value, not just as a member of the city council, but also working with the new administration and new blood, new ideas, and new energy that's coming from the Walsh administration, and to work closely with them to make a difference for Boston. That's an exciting time
yeah,
for me.
how has that dynamic changed? Because obviously when Mayor Menino was alive and running the city, it was done so in his way.
Yeah.
And now, you know, from somebody outside the city council looking in, it might appear that the city council has a little bit more leeway, if you will, because you're working with a new administration
It is.
who's also trying to find their way,
Right.
find Mayor Walsh's way. So how is that? How is it different
Sure,
now?
well, it's well said. I mean, there was a point in time in Boston when it was all about just one person, and that's never healthy, and that's never good for government or for our citizens. And with the new administration and a fresh perspective, there is actually a shared responsibility and a willingness to work closely together. And so our hope is that that will continue. The theory goes that after a mayor gets elected for the second time, it tends to sort of get that way. But knowing Marty and knowing his personality and knowing how inclusive he is and how secure he is and how willing he is to work for people, he's very humble, he's very decent. And so that's very exciting and very healthy for being a member of the Boston City Council at a time when there is an equal partnership. It's the legislative branch of city government. Clearly, he's the executive branch, and he needs to make decisions that he feels are important. But there's a partnership. There's a $2.4 billion budget.
Right.
$1 billion goes to our Boston Public Schools. And so having a sense of shared responsibility. And at the end of the day, you know, the residents and the taxpayers, they don't want, you know, the legislative branch always fighting with the executive branch, or the executive branch always fighting or sidestepping
Yep.
the legislative branch. They would like to have a spirit of cooperation. That said, that they're, you know, and I speak for myself personally, having that streak of independence, having a record of accomplishment, having been in a position to just speak truth to power, having challenged administration, particularly something as powerful as the previous administration, I'm not shy and I'm not bashful to challenge this administration if necessary. But that hasn't been the case. The commissioners and the superintendents that are now in place are excellent choices, and they're working very hard to serve our mayor, but also to serve all Bostonians. And at the end of the day, whether you're on the council or you're in the mayor's office, we all work for the same people, and that's the
Right.
citizens of Boston, particularly the at-large members, because we have the same
Right.
jurisdiction and boundaries as the mayor does. It's all 22 wards and 255 precincts. So
Right.
it's not about us, and it should never be about us. It should never be about personalities, and it should be about what's in the best interest of the people and the residents and the taxpayers of Boston. How do we move the city forward? How do we improve the quality of education? How do we make our streets safer and cleaner? How do we put people back to work? How do we make Boston more affordable? Because as you know, we're becoming the city of the very rich and the very poor. We were just talking about it before we went on the air of how expensive it is to live in Boston.
Right.
So those are the challenges that we have as a city, and our hope is that working together we can solve some of those problems and keep Boston on the map as just a great, livable, workable city that it is.
Absolutely. What are some of the proudest things you've been working on in the last 3 years, basically, on the council?
Sure. Well, clearly addressing the affordable housing crisis through a recent hearing that we had on linkage to try to get more from the development that's happening in our city. We talk about the need to have a police and fire force that reflects the face of the city. I've added up to 3 years before you can take the exam. I want 3 years of residency. What happens now is city kids, kids from the neighborhoods of Boston, have to compete against folks that grew up, went to school and played sports in the suburban communities.
Right.
And they decide, what the heck, I'm going to take the Boston Police or the Boston Fire test. And they take the test first, even though they live in Hanover or Melrose or Wayland, Hingham, wherever they're from. And then after they get their test score and see how well they perform, they decide to move into the city.
Right.
Because the vetting process is at least a year between the recruit investigation, the background checks, you know, all of that stuff. And that person is actually now moves into the city and a year expires. So then they're qualified because they're now living in the city for a year. I want to change that and make it that you have to show that you have lived in the city for at least 3 years before you sit for that test.
Right.
And that will obviously help inner city kids to be able to participate and to score well, and at the same time it'll help hopefully diversify the department. So it's something that I've worked hard on. And also there's a significant number of police details that go unmanned in the city, particularly our construction details.
Right.
So we now have something on the books that will allow retired police officers, provided that they haven't been off the force for more than a few years, to be able to do construction details up until the age of 69. They're allowed to do up to a certain amount of hours so that it doesn't interfere with their retirement. But then we'll have and they could be captains, lieutenants, sergeants, superintendents. So we're going to have very experienced and trained police officers that will be able to be on the street with a walkie-talkie and a uniform and a firearm in the event of an incident. So at no cost to the public and no cost to the taxpayers, it's paid by whoever's doing that construction detail. So there's going to be an opportunity for us to add police presence across the city, throughout all of our neighborhoods, through no cost to the city, and will also allow retired police officers who are able-bodied and can, quite frankly, still do the job, but because of mandatory retirement at 65, there's 65-year-olds running marathons. Not me, but and there's and we know them, and they've been playing leadership roles in our department, and so we have all of that talent, all of that brain power, all of that experience. And at age 65, we wave goodbye. And there's an opportunity to keep them involved with our city and on the police department, particularly in newly devised traffic division, if you will, and they'll be doing details. So great opportunity for the men and women who serve our communities and who've been police officers to be able to sort of stay involved, but also to share that experience and that talent and their training. And be additional police presence throughout all of our neighborhoods. So those are a couple things on the housing side and on the public safety side. But and one of the big things that I'm going to continue to advocate for is treatment on demand. There's not a neighborhood in the city that hasn't been impacted by the heroin epidemic. Families call my office. My colleagues call me, as I'm known as, particularly in those circles, to be able to try to find a bed for someone in recovery. But we boast of having the best hospitals and community health centers in the world. And this is a problem I think is solved. And I'm finally excited, at least to say that we finally have our new governor and our new attorney general in a bipartisan way, Governor Baker and Attorney General Healy, working together to try to solve this problem at their level, which is to go at the root of who's writing these scripts, who's prescribing the scripts, and holding them accountable. I had a story the other day of someone that went to the dentist just to have a tooth extraction, and they wanted to take Tylenol. They insisted on taking Tylenol, but the dentist insisted that they took a script to be comfortable, to take the edge off. You might want to sleep. And ended up writing the script, and it was for 40 pills.
Which is ridiculous.
So I'm glad that our governor and our attorney general will focus on that, and we'll continue to work at the local level with my colleagues and with the mayor.
In about 10 seconds, tell the people at home why they should vote for you on
Well,
November 3rd.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm an experienced member of the Boston City Council. I know Boston, I know its neighborhoods. I work extremely hard and take no neighborhood and no constituency for granted. We boast of the best college universities in the world. I want to make sure that the kids of Boston are able to go there. That means improving the quality of school, lift the charter cap. Let's have quality schools, whether it's a Boston public school, a charter school, a parochial school, or a private school. The problem we have is that we're all about hugs and high fives when a kid graduates from high school. We're in a global economy. The time has come to make sure that we have a year 13 for serious kids who are serious about going on to college. Let's give them one additional year of strict, rigorous college prep work along with SAT prep so that they can get good scores, they can get into these schools and hopefully compete for scholarships so that they can get the jobs in all those buildings that are being built along the South Boston waterfront and throughout all of the downtown.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Please vote for Michael Flaherty November 3rd.
Absolutely. And for more information, you can look up Councilor Flaherty's website and get more information on him. And joining me now is Councilor at Large, Steve Murphy. Councilor Murphy.
Hi, Seth.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. It's been a long time
Nice
since
to
I've
be
had
back.
you.
You've changed the set?
I know. We've done several iterations of the set, but I think I like this one.
Well,
Is
your
it
chair is
comfortable?
higher.
I know. It's to give the appearance that I'm taller, because for short people like me, we need to be lifted up. So
Truth in advertising,
that's
folks.
right. But we're obviously not here to talk about my chair height. We want to talk about the election. It's Tuesday. It's literally days away. So you're in the final stretch. I'm sure you're checking off probably the hours and minutes right now.
X the calendar. It's the favorite part of my day when I put the X on the calendar at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So tell me why you're running again, because obviously you have a really good record
That's why.
So keep on going.
Well, I've been in this for a while. I'm 19 years on the city council, been chair of public safety for 15, council president for 3. I think I have a record that's unmatched of the at-large councilors and or candidates on behalf of the citizens of Boston. I grew up in a family that believed about giving back and helping the underdog and helping each other, and that's what motivated me to run for public office in the first place. And I've had a great deal of success in my career on the city council and in helping people. And whether it's constituent services, like the phone rings, it becomes the most important phone call to me because it's the most important phone call to the person on the other end of the line. And whether they come to the door, and you've worked in the city council before, you know people come to the door with problems, they call with problems. You go out at night, they hand you lists of things you have to do. And then there's the legislative component. And I have a legislative record that dates back several years and some major accomplishments, including the living wage ordinance, which right now the state and the country are trying to get a $15 minimum wage.
Yep.
Boston's living wage is indexed to $15.31 an hour, and that was 16 years ago that we did that. Corey reform, we had a Corey system that was broken in the Commonwealth. It was a one strike and you're out system. And in 2005, I did a resolution to the legislature that reformed Corey in 4 important ways and gave people who are getting out of, after they have their problems and make their mistakes, it's not a one strike and you're out. They can reintegrate, and there's hope and opportunity for them moving forward. Payment in lieu of taxes reform, pilot reform. We have great colleges and hospitals in the city, and they are property tax exempt, which is the way the city of Boston gets most of its revenue is through property taxes. So I led a charge on the city council, got supported by Mayor Tom Menino.
But you led that charge for many years before it actually came to fruition. So
I wouldn't go away.
Right, you would not go away, and I think that's important to say, is that you stuck to it and you fought for it for a long time.
Yeah, and today we get an additional $30 million in pilot payments from the institutions, and we also get an additional equivalent of $30 million more in services, direct services to people in the city of Boston that they would not ordinarily get, whether it's college scholarships or mentoring programs, or the health centers getting folks from our hospitals helping keep babies and children healthy in the neighborhoods of Boston. All of those are part of the pilot payment program and pilot formula, which I spearheaded over the course of a number of years on the city council. Most recently, I did a concussion ordinance for kids on ball fields and community centers, whereby if they get a head injury, I worked with Chris Nowinski of the Sports Legacy Institute over at BU, and now all of the coaches, trainers have to be certified medically, and kids that get injured have to get a medical clearance to return to play.
Right.
And we were quickly followed by the cities of Chicago and Los Angeles, and now all other cities are following our suit. It was a good lead for Boston. It was something that I'm proud of. And most recently, just a few months ago, Mayor Marty Walsh signed the diesel emission reduction ordinance that I worked with for 3 years with ACE over in Dudley Square. And we did so because kids in Boston, and mostly inner city kids, have an asthma rate that's 300 times the national average. And we saw that, and we said we can start by policing our own diesel trucks and buses, and we retrofitted all of them, and now we're making contractors that have contracts with the city do retrofitting for their buses. And moving forward, our air is going to be cleaner, our carbon footprint will be reduced, and that's something that I've done just in the last 3 months.
Which is amazing, because that's one of my pet peeves, is when you see, and even a Boston school bus parked and they're idling for a long period
Diesel
of time.
fuels,
Just, I live
fire trucks,
fire
school
trucks.
buses, tow trucks, all of our diesel equipment.
Yeah.
And on top of that, moving forward, I'm looking at trying to bring solar-powered rapid transit to Boston. And that's another environmentally challenging thing that, with the MBTA was broken last winter. Governor Baker has his hands full with that, and it's $8 billion in debt in terms of maintenance. So we would need public resources to prop that back up. But under new legislation at the federal and state level, if you're going to develop solar-powered rapid transit, you can build it out privately and get funding through the federal government. And so we're going to build out a pilot program between North and South Station on a monorail that's solar-powered. And connect to North and South Station, augment the T, and help our traffic and transportation plans for the city. So I have not lost my spark, my interest for this job. I've been there for a while. I'm experienced. My slogan used to be, give a young man a chance. Now my slogan is, there is no substitute for experience. And it's a fun job, and it's an exciting job. It's humbling.
And it must be different now. I mean, you know, there's been a change in the corner office. We have a new mayor that you're working with. How has that changed the dynamic between working with Mayor Menino versus Mayor Walsh?
Well, Mayor Walsh I've known him for a long time. I knew him as a state rep from Dorchester. He's a good man. He has a good heart, and he's listening and leading the city in the right direction. So I want to give him props for that. I would say that how it's been different for me is that Tom Menino kind of came with the building, City Hall. So he pretty much knew more than everybody about how things worked. And I learned from Tom Menino. And when Mayor Marty Walsh came in, I was able to advise Mayor Marty Walsh of how the building works. And it's valuable input and advice and friendship. And we move along together, doing the best we can, the mayor and the council, for the people of Boston. And I think about the fact that, you know, they say low turnout in city council races. Right. I look at the voters and say, this is the area that impacts you most. Local elections, if you think about the services you get, school services from City Hall, police, City Hall, fire, City Hall, everything that impacts you on a daily basis comes out of your local municipal officials. This should be a very important election for you, and you should strive to make sure you have the right people working for you day in and day out in Boston. I'm one of those people, at least in my own mind, I think I am, and I hope you'll send me back. Please consider voting for Steve Murphy, number 5 on the ballot. The old Murphy magic was at work when we drew lots. So there are 5 people running for 4 seats. Save a vote for Steve at the bottom.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Seth.
You're welcome. And just to talk about the low voter turnout, I know there's been discussion before about maybe doing it the same cycle as the mayor, or doing something to try to generate more voters. Do you think that something like that will happen?
It could happen under city charter change. Right now the charter says 2 years for council, 4 years for mayor. There is a charter change committee meeting in the city council. They're supposed to come out with some recommendations in a few months, but then again, that would take legislative approval to change our city charter. So up in the air.
Well, hopefully we can get enough people to say that would be a great idea, because, you know, it's frankly a waste of money not to go vote for the councilors, but the time and resources it takes to get every 2 years.
It's about $1 million for the preliminary and the final election to run across the city. So every 2 years, you're spending $1 million that you could otherwise put to schools or police or summer jobs for kids, some resources like that. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that you brought up the importance of people going out to vote, because that's obviously something I talk about all the time on this show, and it's frustrating for me, and I'm not even on the ballot, so I know it must be frustrating for you when you look at the numbers.
It is, and when I'm out and I'm meeting with people, there's a cynicism about politics in general, and I don't think it's really at the city level. I think people respect us, like us, see us in the neighborhoods, but you know, Washington, D.C. is about to pass its first budget in 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
5 years.
So go vote on the vote on the city level, because that's where it starts. I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
And for more information about Councilor Murphy, you can look at his website.
CouncilorMurphy.com.
And go vote on Tuesday. And joining me now is Councilor Michelle Wu. Michelle, welcome back to the program. It's been, I feel like, a long time since we've sat down and talked.
Yep, I'm slightly smaller this year.
I know, you were pregnant, you had a beautiful baby boy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I love that you take him to work with you. I think
It
that's,
is the best arrangement to have daycare on site in City Hall.
Yeah.
Incredible for all of the employees who are lucky enough to be able to have kids down there.
yeah,
So we need that every workplace.
absolutely. So obviously you're running for re-election. Election day is
Yep.
literally days away. Why are you running again?
It has just been 2 years of seeing what incredible things you can do from the city level immediately. So we look to Washington, D.C., and we see gridlock, partisanship. In the city council and in city government, our job is to help constituents that day, and that's what we can get done. So I'm proud to have passed some major ordinances that got national headlines, to have started some important conversations and working groups, and most of all to have helped a lot of residents who reached out because they needed something for their family, their school, their community, and we were able to help make their life a little bit better.
What's some of the things that you point to as your proudest moment? So on the legislative side, but also maybe on the constituent side.
Yeah, I'd say 2 of the ordinances that I introduced were passed unanimously by the council and signed into law. They were both very wonderful working partnerships with Mayor Walsh and my colleagues. Paid parental leave, which is an issue that the country is still struggling with as a whole.
Which is
So
crazy
important.
that it's almost 2016 and we're still struggling about this issue.
Yep.
Which, I hate to say it, but it's because it's a women's issue.
Yes.
And no offense to the men who watch the program, but a lot of times the men who are making the decisions around the table don't take into consideration the women who are also sitting around the table and are working in different facets of the economy and taking into consideration our needs.
And what I realized is that it's not about us as individual people or counselors. You know, certainly you bring experiences to the table, and I'm told that I was the first sitting counselor to get pregnant and to have a baby.
It's
And it
true.
wasn't about me. It was the fact that as my belly got bigger, across all of the neighborhoods and in various community meetings, people wanted to tell me about their experiences when they were pregnant, when they had a baby. And then I was able to bring all of that back to the council and say, this is a really urgent issue and we should do something about it now.
Absolutely. And you got recognized nationally for doing this.
The city of Boston has been on the forefront for so many things, so I was proud that we added this one as well. It's an issue that directly drives at income inequality, at the gender gap. So we were, again, one of the first to take care of that in Boston.
Absolutely. How about a constituent issue that you can point to that was sort of maybe a defining moment for you? Because I know a lot of people out there understand that the council, a large part of your role is to help with constituent services as well as the legislative piece, but I don't think they might not have a full idea of what some of the issues that you work through for
Yep.
people.
Well, I'm proud of every case that we've been able to help in, and it can be something as straightforward as trash not having been picked up, and we'll make a call to make sure that's taken care of quickly, to an immigration case, which our job will mostly be to connect that person with the federal government and follow up on their behalf. But one instance that really stuck out to me was when a new mom reached out and she said, you know, I know you just had a baby, congratulations on paid parental leave. I just want to tell you that I came to City Hall to get a birth certificate for my daughter. It didn't go well because I got to the front of the line and the form that I had to fill out said mom and dad. I'm in a 2-mom household. So when I crossed out dad and put my name there and handed it back, it was very uncomfortable, and I got some questions back that just didn't make me feel good. So I was able to work with the administration, and less than 24 hours later, we had a new form down there on the 2nd floor. It says parent 1, parent 2, and now everybody who even needs to get that little piece of paper knows that they're welcome in the city of Boston.
That's amazing. I honestly didn't even know that happened and that you were doing that. So I think that's great. And I think it's also amazing that the administration looked at it and said, yes, absolutely, this needs to be changed.
Yep, it happened like that. And I'm really proud that that is the pace at which the city of Boston is moving to take care of things for people.
That's amazing. You've also done stuff to streamline basically how the permitting process goes for people who want to open businesses. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, this has been my crusade for
I know.
since I was an intern under Mayor Menino many years ago. I got into government because I had personal experience opening a business and seeing how frustrating it is when all of that red tape comes back and delays your process, and forces you to invest more money than you had available into waiting for permits. So Commissioner Christopher has been an incredible partner on this, and after a series of listening sessions that I convened across the city, hearing directly from small business owners, the Council's Committee on Small Business, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation, which I formed, issued a report with 25 recommendations.
Yeah.
Here are 25 steps that we could take immediately to help businesses. A lot of those were right in line with what Commissioner Christopher has been working on, and we're starting to tick them off the list. So we have a situation where almost all of the process is online now. You can get status updates, you can submit things online. The turnaround times are much faster, and certain permits are now being handled administratively instead of being dragged out for many steps in the process.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it actually took so long for people to come to the conclusion where, you know, instead of working in silos on different aspects of permitting, that it should be one sort of fluid process.
Yeah, it's harder for us as an older city.
Right.
The way that our laws happened, because we were founded so long ago, as different unfortunate things happened, a law was passed to take care of that, whether it was fire safety or food safety. And so now we have a situation where, unlike other cities that could look at us and say, okay, we're starting from scratch, what do we do? We have a more complicated system to begin with,
Right.
and it's been great progress to say, okay, how can we take a step back and make sure that every person coming to city government has a streamlined experience?
Yeah. How is this this election cycle differed from the first one?
So different.
First of all, you have a lot less people to contend with.
Yes, there's 5 of us running instead of 19, which
Yes.
is a very different dynamic out on the campaign trail, and thinking about who will come out to vote.
Right.
It's really disheartening in a way, thinking about the predicted turnout numbers. Maybe 15% of people, maybe 18% of people. So we really need every single person to realize that, yes, 2016 is coming, and it'll be very important to vote for the presidential candidate of your choice. But in some ways, city government has more of a direct impact on your life. And these choices that you'll be making on November 3rd are everything that happens day to day. Your schools, your streets, public safety, restaurant permitting, and small business permitting. So just hoping that we can continue to get out the word in the last 5 days and make sure we have a really strong turnout.
7% was the voter turnout last time,
Yep.
non-mayoral, which is, I mean, you know, I've talked about this many, many times. I've said it repeatedly tonight on the program, just how low voter turnout has been and how, as you said, disheartening it is, because people should care about who their city councilor is as much as they care about who the next president is. This is actually more important because, as you mentioned, it is the day-to-day. It's not, oh, you know, pie in the sky kind of legislation that's out there. It's when you walk out your front door.
Right.
Everything that you see in front of you can be positively or negatively impacted by your city councilor.
Exactly.
So tell people at home why they should vote for you on November 3rd.
Sure. Well, it's been an honor to serve as your city councilor at large for my first term, and the 2 years have gone by quickly with a lot of great accomplishments and progress for the city. I want another term to continue working on big issues. My focus will be housing, education, and mental health, 3 very complex issues that are essential for stability in our neighborhoods and families. So I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd to keep working hard. My focus is on families. I never expected to be in government, but came to it once I realized how important city government is, and I try to keep that mindset every day when someone calls or when we see a problem. This is the most important issue in the world to that constituent, to that community, and my job is to step in and take care of it quickly.
Great. So I wish you luck.
Thank you so
Obviously, I know you're counting down the days because it is almost Tuesday, and then you can take maybe a little mini break. Any plans?
I'm actually taking part in a conference right after the election. So the governing magazine selected a few women to participate in a leadership training institute. So I will be taking part in third-party funded travel again after the election, but it's to get hands-on skills on how to write policy, how to think about all of these important ideas for city government.
Great. Well, just a reminder for people, if you want more information on Councilor Wu, you can check out her website, and don't forget to vote on November 3rd. I hope you found the program informative and that you go out and vote on Tuesday, November 3rd. We'll see you next time.